Hello, welcome to this game playing J-Nails. I am Shanahan playing J-Nails in the Handmix tournament. Let's see what we've got here. Some classic Handmix cards like Minion, Coven, we'll see. There's a Minion attack that could be, the Legionary attack that could be bad here. But sort of regardless, you want to get thin. So I could see opening like Double Forager, Forager Hermit, Goat Herd, maybe? I think I want to start with a Hermit. A Hermit here. I think Stables are going to be good for draw. Depending on what happens, you might want to pick up Covens and Legionaries. It's not clear to me that any of the piles will run quickly, so that Paddocks will be super great as a terminal. So it seems potentially like Legionary or Paddock would be the terminal that you play with. I'll open with a Hermit, though. It can trash the Hovel and the Overgrown Estate and gain like a Goat Herd or a Forager or a Guide or a Silver. And potentially I can exchange it for a Madman to hit some nice big price points. Plus buys in your Forager is where your plus buys. The only source of plus actions that you have is in the Necropolis, so that's important, certainly. I think Flagbearer I'm going to wait on. I suspect J-Nails will do the same thing. We had a discussion about that the other day, actually, that there's a big disadvantage if you're going first with the flag bearer. So unless there's a significant reason to do it, I wouldn't necessarily do that. My first turn, I should not have done play all coppers and buy the Hermit, because they might have potentially then opened flag bearer themselves, knowing that I didn't have 4 the next turn. In this kingdom, I don't think that's relevant, but it is the kind of thing that could come up. So they got a Goat Herd, which is interesting. They're going to be able to draw quite a few cards with it, especially if I'm trashing a lot with Forager and a Hermit. I'm going to get a Silver now and sort of see where my next turn develops. Probably I'll pick up my own Goat Herd now and a Madman. If I want a Madman, then I should pick up another Hermit, because the Silvers are pretty good cards for the deck with Stables. I'm not really thinking big picture here. So let me refresh. J-Nails is one of the top players on the Dominion deck games. They're certainly often in the top 10 of rankings and in some of the top leagues, or in the final 8 of the Dominion Championships. So they're a very good player. So it's important that I have a very focused, coherent plan and strategy for this kingdom. Probably I've already passed that point for this kingdom, but we'll see. So they got a flag bearer. Interesting. And it's going to be slightly annoying for me to get the flag bearer now, because I don't have 4 in this hand, which is marginally unlucky. And it's 50-50 that I could draw it if I play, but I'd really much rather not lose my Forager play. And I think Guide counters Legionary and Minion attacks decently well. So I think I'm going to grab a Goat Herd here and then exchange this for a Madman. Or do I just grab another Hermit? I still have one. I think I'll go for the Goat Herd. And I can Scouting Party here, but I know the Forager's on top. So I guess I'll do that. I'll Scouting Party. And turn. So I didn't do that quite right. I aligned the shuffle awkwardly, and I didn't realize that I actually trashed the Hermits. They're going to get to draw 2 here, which is quite nice out of their Goat Herd. I'm also going to get to draw 1, which is nice. So maybe the Goat Herd was better than a Hermit to pick up early on. Although we'll see what they buy with their second buy. I think if I'm going to play with a Paddock, I can get it fairly soon with my first 5, or maybe my first 5 will be Coven, also possible, or Stables. Those are the 3 things I'm considering. As I said, I think Legionary gets countered by Guide, and I could definitely see... I can't actually really see playing with it, so if you really want a whole bunch of money from actions, you just play with Minions. So my goat herd's going to be able to draw quite nicely for me this turn. And I'll probably be able to buy a paddock here. Although we'll see what they do with their turn. So they've trashed 2. I've trashed 1. Well, they don't actually have a forager. They opened goat herd hermit. Interesting. Forager is the only plus buy here. You can gain extra small things with hermit, but that's pretty much it. So I'll have to see what they're doing here. They very likely have 4 money in their hand. They have 8 cards in their deck, a flag bearer, and 7 coppers. So they either have 4 or 5 money in their hand. And it's relatively unlikely that they have the flag bearer because the way the shuffles worked. Okay, so they trashed 2, so I can play this draw 2. This is quite sad that I can't get to... I don't really want to trash the Necropolis as my only plus action. So I'll go ahead and take the flag bearer back. And I'll be able to play the Madman this turn and draw that stuff back up. And then see what I buy from there. Yes, they're going to trash their flag bearer to take the flag back. And on my turn, I will attempt to trash my flag bearer and take my flag back. I think I have 6 money. I think I have 8 money in my deck right now. Maybe 7 money in my deck right now. So I will need a little bit more money. So maybe that leads the first buy towards being the paddock. Which is a nice card. We'll see what Jay Nails does here on their 5. And I'll note, and I'll put the link in the video, but Jay Nails usually records and posts the games, so you'll be able to see this game from their view. They've also gotten very, very thin and hit 5. Gained a paddock. Okay, that's my Madman. Okay, let's see what I can do here. Well, I can goat herd the Ruin Estate to draw the silver. So I'm going to have 7, which is a little bit sad, unless I trash the copper. So I can trash the copper and claim that I'm going to let them keep the flag for 1 turn and be able to buy a silver with my paddock. I'm going to have a real tough time drawing all of that. So I think I'm just going to trash this. What did they buy? They bought the paddock. Okay. So I'm strongly considering the paddock. The other thing that I consider would be a stables. That doesn't add money to my deck, but it helps me faster. I can also top deck a stables I can't actually with Scouting Party. I have to discard 3. So I could buy a paddock, buy a hermit. That seems reasonable to me. I like getting the hermit so I can gain 3 costs that I want to play. So paddock, hermit, and I do have this Necropolis for a plus action if I need it. So again, with these goat herds, we're able to draw pretty nicely early on. They get worse once we run out of coppers to trash. The difference between our decks right now is I have the flag. They have an extra goat herd. And they have thinned right now 1 more copper than I have. So that's the difference in our decks right now. So all in all, that's pretty close. I think having the flag is nice because it sort of forces them to spend $4 this turn to buy the flag, which they would be rather buying a paddock or something. But if they hit 9 money, then maybe they buy a stables and a flag bearer, and that's not too bad. They also have this hermit potentially, so they have to consider if they want to play the hermit and the paddock and the flag bearer. That's too many things to pick. And I don't really see piles running. You know, paddocks are really good once one of the piles run. Maybe the stables could get low. If they go for Coven, I kind of have to respond and go for Coven stuff, so then the Coven pile could get low. That's a potential, I suppose. So they gained a Hermit here. They played a Hermit to gain a Silver, which makes sense. They did not draw their Paddock, which is unfortunate. I'm hoping to find my Paddock down here on my turn, and we'll see what they do. Obviously, I would be happy if they take a Madman here, because it gives me an extra draw with my Goatherd. But my goal here is to get to 5 to buy a Stables, and maybe thin a card along the way. Okay, so this is nice. I can trash a Copper, play the Paddock to get some horses, and with 6, I don't think I need the Silver yet. I'm not drawing reliably, so I'm going to get the Stables. And I only trashed 1, so their Goatherds are not going to be as good this turn. So they've got 7. They did a Scouting Party, which makes sense to seed the rest of their shuffle. And I assume they're going to get Stables. Okay, so I can do some tricks here. I can play that. I can gain a Silver with the Hermit. Then I can discard a Copper to draw it. And I will draw it the way this works. I maybe should have counted that before I played all that out that quickly, but it seems to have worked out in my favor. If you can get to a point where you're like playing multiple Paddocks a turn, you can do some tricks with Scouting Party to seed a bunch of horses. But if I were to buy a Scouting Party right now, it would just give me discard my horses. So I think just going with a Stables plan makes sense, like Stables Silver. If I need to trash a Silver at some point with Forger, I could. Not really sure why I would need to. So I think this is the plan that gives me the most reliability. I can also consider at some point getting a Guide. But this should let me hit 10 next turn. And obviously this is an amazing draw for me. I should be able to gain and play another Silver, trash a Copper. So I feel like I'm a little bit ahead here. Maybe that's a little bit of first player. The fact that they took the flag first. And the last shuffle, I had a nicer shuffle than they did, I think. On turn 7, I had a little bit nicer shuffle than they did. So I was able to draw through, and their Stables was at the bottom, which is the Stables that you're seeing here. One of the things I need to worry about is how do I ramp up my payload. Last turn I added some reliability to the engine with Stables, and I added, I guess, 2 silvers. So I'm adding 4 money to the deck over the course of that turn, and I trashed 2 coppers, though. So it's a complex give and take situation here. They were able to use their Hermit to gain a silver. Yeah, and they bought a flag and Stables, which makes sense. So I've kind of got to follow suit and buy. I kind of have to follow suit and buy the flag here, which is fine. I actually don't have good things to trash, so I think I'm going to draw this. So I can play the Hermit to gain a silver. Not trash with that. Probably I will be looking to... Yeah, very probably I will be looking to trash that Goatherd in the near future. I also need to start considering a third buy if I'm going to keep ramping up what I'm doing here. But I think the plan is just to get a flag bearer and a Stables here. Again, I'm adding 4 money to the deck. I'm adding a little bit of reliability. I was actually able to save a horse this turn, so that's nice. did I have? I shuffled my deck, drew 2 silvers. Okay, so I don't have any Scouting Party tricks still, and just keep adding the stables. At some point, I'll probably get rid of the Hermit, but there's also consideration to use the Hermit to get a Forager and play that for a third buy. The draw here is not great. You have to have a lot of treasures and a lot of stables to make it all work. So keeping the flag is going to be quite nice. Having extra horses around is going to be quite nice. It does look like we're moving towards emptying the stables pile before we green. And because I feel like I'm a little bit ahead, I have the flag right now. I don't need to green as aggressively as them. So I'm going to kind of wait and build up. And as long as I feel like I've got a little bit of an edge, I continue to build up and match them, outmatch them when greening. Their consideration, I think, is going to be that they are possibly able to build a better engine. So we've got a lot of decision points to make between now and when we actually decide to start greening. And there are a couple of things that can change. So Legionary, I'm not that worried about because we can switch to the guide plan. Coven is something that we have to watch out for. If you're drawing well enough with stables, it could make sense to add a Coven. And then once the stables pile gets down to 3 or 4, you can consider adding another paddock, knowing that it's about to become non-terminal. All of a sudden, you can add a bunch of paddocks. And a paddock essentially is like a laboratory next turn for you, or this turn if you're able to draw those horses. So paddock becomes a lot better once one of the piles is empty. So I believe we're both out of starting cards to trash, other than we've each got a flag bearer we can trash. We've each got a hermit we can potentially do something with. So they trash the flag to get the flag back. It's possible that the way this is going, both the stables and the flag bearer pile will empty. That doesn't seem completely crazy to me. They got a silver, and they have 11 money, which is what I had last turn. And they got a Legionary and a gold. Okay. So they did the thing I said I wasn't afraid of, which is fine. That does give them a little bit more payload, but they do seem to be, they are going to be short a little bit on draw. Okay. I did not find my Necropolis yet. I think I will play the Goat Herd for draw here, or do I just play a horse? I can't just play a horse. The plan is to Hermit. Okay, I guess I'm going to play one horse. Okay, so I am going to now be a little bit cautious here. Oh, I can trash the flag bearer here and then forge the Goat Herd. That seems better. To gain the guide. I can't actually play the paddock first, so never mind. Do that. Okay, so that's 11. So they've got the Goat Herd, the Legionary, and the gold. So now they can potentially start double provincing if they hit me with the Legionary attack, which is something to watch out for. Do I want to counter and get my own Legionary gold? That gets me up to double. And again, I've got a little bit more draw and reliability with this extra horse. I've got 3 horses to their 2, although that's transitory or transient, but I have 3 stables to their 2. So I should be able to draw better. And if my hand is complete junk, I can always guide it away. And I trashed 2 stop cards for my deck this turn, right? I trashed a Goat Herd and a flag bearer, and I added the guide. So I think I'm going to go Legionary Gold as well and force them to follow me in the guide stuff. This is a lot of my treasure right at the top of the shuffle, so that's quite concerning to me. But I'm not quite sure what I can do about it at this point. If they do get the Legionary Gold in play, I kind of have to play the guide. I have another horse, 2 stables. 2 more treasures down there. So there's a pretty decent chance I'll be able to draw, but it gets a lot dicier. Finding 3 of my 6 draw cards together and 3 of my treasures, which the other stables will need to activate. I think if they have the Legionary Gold in play, they might as well force me to discard. If nothing else, it takes me from a 6-card hand, 6 to the guided hand of 5. In the best case, it can screw me up somehow, like you're seeing here. The other sort of anti-synergy is Stables wants to discard a treasure like a gold, and Legionary, you have to reveal it. So I would have to have play the Legionary first before I reveal the Stables. And again, I'm action limited, so I can't play my Hermit next turn. I can't play Hermit, Legionary, and Paddock all in the same turn. I can only play 2 of those. I think Legionary would be the one I would pass up unless I had to get this guide stuff online to avoid their Legionary attack. And we'll find out right now if I'm going to get Legionary attacked. I'm not really sure why I wouldn't. They have another horse in hand. They have 2 silvers in the discard pile, so there's a... and they had the Goatherd still, so they can draw with the Goatherd. So again, their next turn, though, is not going to have horses in it. So they're going to have a tougher time drawing next turn. But the Legionary certainly adds a lot of randomness, I think, to this situation. If I draw bad off my guide draw, or like this top card is a Stables or a horse, I could all of a sudden go from being in a winning position to a losing position. However, if I'm able to find my Legionary in gold next turn, I will be able to mess with them a little bit. And again, we're seeing that they don't have horses for next turn. Let's card those 4, I guess. Okay, so Necropolis is up here, which is a little bit sad. But I'm going to have a whole bunch of draw in this set of cards, so I'm kind of okay triggering a shuffle if I can get to one. I just need a horse or a Stables in this top 5. So I went for the extra Stables, and I had the flag, and they went for the Legionary Gold a turn ahead. So, they still need to build up, I assume. They could even be getting something like Stables Flag Bearer here, because they need to add draw, because they lost quite a bit of draw last turn. So the 2 horses drew netted plus 2 cards. So, and I believe they just barely were able to gain and play that guide with the cards that they had. So I assume they're going to add at least 1 Stables here and 1 other card. And we'll see if they decide to start messing with me. And I can start to think maybe I should have on my turn, when they did this here on their turn 9, on my turn 9, I could have done the same thing, but I wanted to take the flag. So maybe I didn't have a way around that. That was an unfortunate shuffle, 3 of my 6 draw cards in the top third. So half the draw cards in the top third of the deck. But I don't really know until I play my guide how bad this turn ends up being. It's not at all clear to me what their best decision to do here is. If they just take another Stables, or if they take the flag back, or a Coven. It feels a little bit early to be taking provinces. And Minion doesn't seem good here, so I'm not really sure. Minion is not good in decks that have lots of treasures, and in theory these decks we need lots of treasures because we're playing with Stables. If you don't have enough treasures, Stables are pretty bad cards. So I would probably take in their shoes another stables here. Okay, good. I found stuff. That's quite nice. And I've got a bunch of horses down here I can play. Awesome. So this worked out well. I'm probably need to gain and play another guide this turn. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I will also salvage Forge of Silver, excuse me, here. So I'm also going to be out of horses next turn. So again, we're both on turn 11 here. Oh no, I'm on turn. I was first player, so I'm on turn 11 here. Our decks are fairly identical. They've got some extra goat herds, which at this point are replacing themselves because I trashed one card for a buy. Maybe the goat herds aren't really stop cards in this deck. I've got a guide down. So I consider going double stables. And then if they buy the last stables, then my paddocks are activated. I consider going stables, minion, if I'm really worried about drawing through, but I don't really like that. Stables, Coven is another consideration just to start, get a little bit more money, but mostly just to hand out curses slowly. That feels pretty bad. So I overdrew. I didn't quite overdraw. I overdrew by 1 here, and I lost 3 cards worth of draw. The problem is with only 4 treasures, it's really scary for me to have. It's really scary for me to have more than 4 stables. 5 stables and 4 treasures. It's quite scary in a deck of 4, 5, 9, 10, 13. So that'd be 15 cards. I should have enough treasures to make that work, but it's a little dicey. They have 4 stables and also I think 4 treasures. So again, it's kind of dicey to be able to draw all of that. Maybe the goat herds. Well, the goat herds are going to be neutral. So that's the only reason I would consider potentially getting, like, you just get a complete dud if you draw stables without treasures. So I could go like stables gold here, or I could go double stables, play it risky, and then the paddocks will be activated if they buy another stables. I'm also concerned that if I buy if I buy 1 stables, then they buy a 5th one, and I can't empty the stable pile. Otherwise, the paddocks get activated. But I could also consider greening here, but that also seems bad. I think you can continue to build quite a bit. So, no stables. So I'm just going to go double stables and hope I don't have a terrible draw. This is a fine start. Well, it's not a fine start. 2 of my 4 treasures are in here, so this could be problematic for me. We'll see if they're able to draw. It's by no means guaranteed for either of us. In fact, I may be guaranteed not to be able to draw this turn, given this starting hand. Okay, so they've been able to find enough treasures, which is good. Yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to draw unless I find a treasure on my second stables play here, which would be sad. Are they thinner than I am? I'm trying to figure out why. They seem to have had no problem drawing here. But maybe that's just on a good draw you draw and on a bad draw you don't. I really have no idea how that works. Each stable nets 2 cards. I have 5 stables. 15 cards, so I should be able to draw everything with the stables. Is how that works. But they have 15 cards. They played 3. Each stable netted a card, so they got up to 9 cards. So yeah, it's just a matter of the fact that I have 2 treasures up here is really unlucky. I guess not really unlucky. Moderately, it's unfortunate for me, but I would expect in 6 cards to have like 1 point and 4 treasures. In 15, you can do the math there, but basically I expect to have 1.5 treasures in 6 cards. So they can decide if they want to hermit for guide themselves. Oh, they're not going to be able to hermit for guide themselves, but I'm not going to be able to play legionary this turn, so it doesn't really matter. They don't know that, of course. And I don't think they have any more draw. So if I am able to get the lucky draw, basically just have to have a stables and a treasure down here. I've got 2 stables, 2 treasures, and then I'll find the second stables and treasures, and then I'll trigger a shuffle with basically these 6 cards in there, and hope to find these 6 cards and 2 treasures, and hope to find one of the treasures, and then I should be able to draw through. Oh, they didn't play the legionary this turn. Wow. Okay. I was going to be very, very scared. Now I'm just slightly scared because I have to find one of, well, 4 stables and 9 cards. It should be not difficult to do. They have 13 money. I wouldn't be surprised to see them take, well, it just makes sense to take the flag back now. Paddock stables doesn't strike me as bad. The Paddocks become non-terminal with the stables buy. They help me a little bit in my turn, but they'll have more Paddocks than I do. And then basically the only difference between our decks is they have 1 extra Paddock, and I have an extra half turn. Got a minion. Interesting. I was not at all thinking minion. Okay, come on, stables. There we go. That was closer than it needed to be, I guess. So I don't need to play my. I don't need to play my hermit this turn, so I can play the Paddock. Discard that. Discard that. And discard that. Okay, so I've got 11 money, 14 money with the legionary. I can forge a horse to get to 16 money if I want to do that. I could also forge a hermit to get to 16 money. Probably speaking, I've got these horses now, so I'm less concerned about the stables stuff. I could even go Paddock minion myself and sort of say, hey, I've got more stables than you. I'm feeling good about that. Make me empty the Paddocks. I could also go stables Paddock and say, well, I've got more draw, but fewer treasures, so I'm not worried about it. Also, I kind of do need to play the Forager, and I don't want to give up the Hermit, as I think there's tricks you can do with that later in the game. So I will forage a horse here, make them discard, and then figure out what I want to buy. So, minions, huh? I kind of don't want cards that are blocking up treasures. Like, I could believe in Gold Province here. with the idea that I'm going to be able to reliably double province starting next turn. And if they ever want to empty the stables, then I can pivot back to the paddocks. But there's a big opportunity cost for them to keep buying paddocks without them being activated. So I think I'm going to go for that strategy. I've got an extra horse this turn, and I'll have one extra treasure, so I'll feel better about that. I'm not super comfortable, greening here, but got the two guides, so in the worst case scenario. And this is quite bad for me if they legionary attack me this turn. This is a substantial percentage of my draw altogether. And all my golds. So like legionary attacking them back will be very tough. But I think this game is going to be like that. It's going to be on razor's edge as to whether you're going to be able to draw, and you're not going to know until after you play your guide, essentially. The longer they wait, I took a long turn, so it could just be there, getting a drink of water. While it could be that they have some kind of dud or not quite sure what to do. They've got a legionary and a paddock or something, and they're trying to decide which terminal to play. It could be that I took so long that they are recollecting their thoughts now. I think both of us have played this game somewhat slow. 35 minutes is a long time for a Dominion game. I think normally J Nails and I are both pretty fast players. But we'll see what they do. So I think, if they're able to draw and have a turn here, they have to consider getting some more paddocks and then getting the last stables, and then they'll have more actions than me and more horses, so they'll be able to more easily and reliably double province. Or they can think, well, I'm going to double province now and make them match me. But again, I have more draw in my deck with one extra stables, and the goat herds are going to be essentially neutral, and I can skip a draw on some turn. Basically, not play Forger one turn to make their goat herds even worse. If for some reason I need to. It's been like 2 minutes now, so I'll ask them if they're make sure they're thinking about it and not away from keyboard. Okay, they had stepped away. It can be really tilting if that happens, and they just immediately rattle off 4 stables and then play a legionary and dud me. If they have a dud short turn, it's a lot less tilting, obviously. And if they have a minion, for example, that's going to be a little sad for me here. Although a minion is probably better, because I want to cycle through, because this is so much of my payload and my draw here. The Necropolis doesn't really tell me anything. They're going to play that on every turn here, no matter what. And there's a pretty small probability that they have Legionary Gold. So it could be that they have... I'm not quite sure what the situation is here. Maybe they have the minion and they were deciding if they wanted this to be their terminal. Yeah, that makes sense. So this is an atrocious draw, but I've got a guide down, so this should go well. Yeah. So that's kind of in the cause me to go on tilt mode. They play those cards. They take some time away, then they come back, they play the cards out slowly, and all of a sudden they're having this big turn, and it's like I was convinced they were going to dud. When they got both their guides down, they're drawing, they're seeing everything they need to see, they're having just a normal full turn, starting from the 3-card hand. And obviously if they didn't have the minion in that hand, it's a lot worse. So it was lucky that they drew the minion. Of course, that's why they bought the minion, I'm sure. The tough decision there was if they play the Hermit early on in the turn to gain, a Forger? If they play that Hermit early on in the turn, they cannot play their Paddock later in the turn. So that's the tough consideration they have. We'll see if they end up playing the Paddock here, or if they play the Legionary and attack me. I'm going to guide either way, so it doesn't matter. But I know I have... man, do I have 2 horses? I have a horse, a stables, and a silver down there, so I'm fairly guaranteed to be able to do what I need to do next turn. Okay, so not going to get attacked. And they've got 5, and they're going to get Stables Province? Or they're going to build towards tripling. The second Forger is good for plus buy, but it's not clear to me what they can trash. If they overdraw, they have more draw than they need. With Paddocks, they can trash horses and stuff. But to do that, they have to buy the stables. Okay, they did buy that. I guess I'm going to play with this hand. Okay, disaster. Absolute disaster. I'm going to buy another Paddock. Okay, so yeah, this is the problem with stables. Just you get those unlucky draws, and I have more treasures than they do, so I should be more likely to not have those draws. So hopefully, if this game goes on for another few turns, and I don't lose quickly, they will have equal opportunity to have those dud turns as me. But the fact that I had one of those that late in the game, especially because I had 5, I immediately drew 5 yellow cards. So that was just very unlucky draw for me. And the fact that they had their minion turn 12. So I may have gotten lucky early in this game to be ahead, but this is really I'm not at all happy with how this is played out. Luckily, I still have a guide down, so I can play the guide. So I'm assuming they're out of draw now, which is nice. Certainly their equivalent of a dud turn is going to be nicer than mine with gaining 4 horses, but they're trashing the goat herds now, which makes sense. And yes, they only found 1 Paddock. They didn't find the Legionary. They're getting another guide, some more silvers. Okay, this should be able to draw. And I can actually stop and think for a second about and play these Paddocks before the shuffle. Is that even reasonable? Probably not. I probably just want to... No, okay, I do want to play them before the shuffle because I'm not incredibly certain I'm going to be able to draw here. Oh my goodness, where are my draw cards? Okay, so I can Hermit for something. I think I can now Hermit for that other Forger too. What am I forging? What am I... I can kill one of my silvers. So where are we at? What did they buy last turn? They bought another guide and some silvers. So it makes some sense to get the other Forger, I'm sorry. So I guess I'll do that. Okay, so the bottom card of the deck is a Forager. I'm like running out of fuel for it. I'm going to end up foraging horse, foraging silver here. Which I guess is fine. I do have a guide down. Okay, so I've got the money that I need. I've got 19. So I could go like double paddock province. It like hurts my draw next turn. I could go double paddock gold. The gold gives me a little bit more reliability with the paddocks and with the stables, and it lets me potentially triple province. And I can always trash some of these extra silvers. I probably could have killed a silver this turn. I should have killed a silver this turn. Oh, no, I need them for the Forager though. Duh. So what is this? Double paddock gold. And I underdrew this turn a little bit, or I had to play horses because the Forager was the bottom card and I had to trash, but I should have more paddocks next turn. This feels like I'm maybe building a little bit too much, but we'll see. So they did play their guide to discard. Again, they've got, what, 4 silvers now? 5 silvers? Oof. It's amazing with Minion how you see like a nice hand and then just a completely awful hand. And I know it's a smaller hand, so you expect it, but you know, for example, I had all the golds in that first hand and then the stables, and you know, that's a nice, even if you know, get rid of 2 random of those cards, that's going to be a nicer hand than these 4 cards. I guess the worst hand there would be gold Forager Hermit, which is enough to buy a province. Oh, they had a dud there. It's unfortunate for them. Oh, I have a dud too. But my next turn has so many horses in it. So I can even Scouting Party. It's tough to Scouting Party with the Minion and the Legionary, though. So I feel good about all those horses. Yeah, I'm considering just like getting a paddock. Maybe I should Scouting Party. I kind of want these 2 stables in there. Get another paddock, another guide, or just get a province here and think with those 6 horses I should be able to draw pretty reliably. These are not easy decisions. I am worried if I start to lower the piles too much. So I think I'm going to take a province here. I do not have a guide down, which they should note carefully. I probably will discard everything but a horse and a stables. Try to find one of my treasures. But they did have a quite bad dud turn there. They were only able to gain 2 horses, and they couldn't even buy anything. Which is... What did they have? I'm not clear what they had there. I may very well have a dud turn here, although I have 4 stables and 4 horses, I think, in the rest of this deck. My guides are gone, so I may need to, the next time I draw a deck, gain and play a guide just so I have an extra one down. But this draw with stables is tough. You really do have to find the stables every turn. I actually was going to enjoy the Legionary deck because it gave me a better chance of drawing into another draw card. But it looks like that's not going to happen. Okay, getting some drawn. Play the guide, play the horse. Okay, this was my hand. So I can always play the paddock. The paddocks are about to get doubly activated, so the Necro becomes a lot worse. So if I trash the Necropolis and buy paddock province, I feel fairly comfortable. Again, I do have a guide down. And the game seems like it's nearing the end. So Paddock province, and I do have a 3-province lead, which is pretty good. It's tough to beat a 3-province lead. But this has been a very, very long game, so we'll see. Hopefully the rest of the games are going to be a lot faster. I was able to play just 1 paddock there and 2 horses, so I should still have a whole bunch of horses in my deck somewhere. Yeah, so the flag bearer doesn't end up mattering that much once the minion and the legionary attacks get going. They're not nothing because they've missed those attacks sometimes. I suspect to get both minion attacked and or legionary attacked here in a second. Although it's unlikely given their hand size they'll get to do the minion attack, so legionary attack seems much, much more likely. They'll probably just play the minion for coins. And they do have 1 action. This is the other part about this deck with minion. If they don't draw the minion early on in the turn, it's just a silver, and they might as well have a silver to play with the stables. So, wow! I did not think they could get that big. They trashed the legionary? They just didn't... They trashed it? Well, I'm confused. Why did they trash a legionary? When did they trash a legionary? That's quite confusing to me. I did not think they could get to 29 coins, but I guess if I draw a deck, I was planning on tripling, so I can get pretty close. Wow. I have, I think, 3 horses down there, and I think I should have some treasures. 3 golds. Turn before that, I had discarded a silver. So I shuffled deck. I had a silver. I discard a silver and play 3 golds. Do I only have 2 silvers? Looks like there's a decent chance I don't have any more silvers down there. But I should have more horses down there. It seems too risky to guide this hand away. So, if I can draw a deck here, I win. Just by triple provincing. They can maybe double province here? No, they can like province and double duchy, but it seems really tough for them to catch up with that line. This is a point where I'm perfectly fine with them taking as much time as they need. This is a really key point. They also know that I was not attacked, so I have 6 good cards in my hand here. If I can find another horse or a treasure, and I do have another silver down here, so I should have another horse down here as well. I have 6. I gained 6 horses. I played 2. I played 2, so I think the bottom of this deck might be 4 horses and a silver. I should be able to just buy 3 provinces on the next turn. I might even be able to hermit for a forger and buy 4 provinces next turn, in which case I've sealed it. Not a lot I can say here. They're doing math in their head. They're saying, well, what if my opponent does triple on their next turn? They get to 30. Sorry, they get to 36. So if I get triple province, get to 36, how do they get to 36 to beat me? That requires 2 provinces and 6 duchies and an estate, which is 8 buys. So they need 3 turns to do that. So if I can have a big turn this turn and buy 3 provinces, essentially I win. So they could be saying, well, I'm going to hope that Shanahan duds and can't get 3 provinces. Maybe can only get 1 province. Then I'll get more provinces. So they could get 3 provinces here and say, I hope you dud. They could also go like Province Double Duchy and say, I'm going to build, I've got a bunch of horses next turn, I can gain and play another Forager and buy 4 things next turn. But even then, they can only buy 4 things. Oh, they did gain and play another Forager? Oh, they bought a Paddock. Okay. They might, it might be better for them to not buy that Paddock and instead buy Province Triple Duchy. Which is 15 points. And then if I get triple province, I'm at 36. And then next turn, they could get 5 buys and get province and 4 duchies, which is not enough, though. I am going to take a brief break myself while they think this out, and leave you hanging until the next video in this playlist.